She entered the ball in her mother's outdated gown, enduring public humiliation when her engagement was cruelly broken before all of society. What Eleanor never expected was that the most feared Duke's silence concealed a secret connection to her past, one that would lead her toward a life of passion and purpose far beyond England's shores. Will you dare to discover how her greatest moment of shame became the first step toward extraordinary happiness? Eleanor stood in her room looking at her mother's old green dress. The dress was 20 years old but still pretty. The soft fabric felt cool against her fingers. Outside, rain tapped on the window as the carriage waited to take her to the big ball. "Are you really wearing that old thing?" asked her aunt with a frown. Her aunt wore a new pink dress with shiny beads. "Lord Harper wants a wife who looks rich and new, not old and plain. Mother wore this when she met father," Eleanor said in a quiet voice. "It might bring me luck." Eleanor's heart beat fast as the carriage stopped at the huge stone house. Lights from 100 candles made the windows glow like gold. Music floated out the open doors. Ladies in bright dresses and men in black coats moved about like busy bees. Eleanor took a deep breath and stepped into the ballroom. The talking stopped. The music went quiet. All eyes turned to look at her green dress among the sea of pink and blue gowns. Some people whispered behind their hands, others just stared. At the bottom of the stairs stood the Duke of Blackmore. People called him the Ice Duke because he never smiled and spoke harsh words. But now he stood still as a tree, his eyes wide, his mouth open but no words coming out. Lord Harper cut through the crowd like a knife. His face was red with anger. "What is this?" he asked in a voice that felt like ice. "You come to our party dressed like a poor farmer's wife." "I wanted to honour my mother," Eleanor said, her voice shaking. "Honour?" Lord Harper laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "You shame me before all my friends." He turned to face the crowd. "Everyone, I must tell you there will be no wedding announcement tonight. Miss Eleanor needs to learn what it means to be a proper lady." The room filled with whispers like leaves in the wind. Eleanor felt hot tears behind her eyes but would not let them fall. Not here, not now. The Duke of Blackmore still hadn't moved. His dark eyes watched her face as if looking for something important. "Your carriage, miss?" a kind servant asked. Eleanor stood tall even though she felt small inside. "No," she said in a clear voice that surprised even her. "Please tell my aunt I will visit my godmother in the country. I need clean air and kind hearts." As she walked out, head high, she felt the Duke's eyes follow her. She didn't look back. The night air cooled her hot cheeks as she climbed into a hired carriage. "Where to, miss?" asked the driver. "To Willow Cottage," she said. "My godmother Rose lives there." As the horses pulled away, Eleanor watched the big house grow smaller. The music and lights faded. For the first time since entering the ballroom, she took a full breath. It tasted like freedom. Willow Cottage sat at the end of a winding dirt path. It wasn't big like the homes in town, but its garden burst with colours: red roses, purple flowers, and green herbs. Inside, books filled every shelf and table. Eleanor's godmother Rose wasn't like other ladies. Her grey hair wasn't always neat, and she wore comfortable clothes instead of tight dresses. "People who only care about looks miss the real treasures in life," Rose told Eleanor one morning as they drank tea by the window. "That man did you a favour by showing his true self." Eleanor spent her days reading books from Rose's shelves. She read stories about far places, smart women, and brave deeds. At night, she wrote her thoughts in a small blue book. The hurt in her heart slowly got smaller. 3 months passed like this. The spring rain turned to summer sun. One morning, Rose put down her teacup with a firm tap. "Enough hiding," she said. "There's a talk in the town hall today about old cities found under dirt. We're going." Eleanor didn't want to see people who might have heard about the ball, but Rose wouldn't take no for an answer. The town hall was half full when they arrived. Eleanor sat in the back, hoping no one would notice her. A tall man with kind eyes and a warm smile walked to the front. His name was Mr. Alessandro, and he came from a place called Italy. 2,000 years ago, he said, people lived full lives in towns now covered by dirt and time. Their homes tell us who they were. His words painted pictures in Eleanor's mind. When he asked if anyone had questions, Eleanor surprised herself by raising her hand. "Did the women in these towns write books or make art?" she asked. Mr. Alessandro's face lit up. "Yes. We found poems written by women on walls and in letters. Many were very wise." After the talk, he came to speak with her. "Most people ask about gold or battles," he said. "You ask about the real treasure, the words people left behind." The next day, Rose pushed Eleanor to visit the small museum where Mr. Alessandro was showing old things from Italy. He smiled when he saw her and spent an hour showing her broken pots with words carved on them. "These are cooking tips written by a woman named Lucia," he explained. "She taught others how to make good bread." Soon, Eleanor met Mr. Alessandro twice a week. They walked in the garden talking about books. They visited the old church to look at painted walls. They sat by the river while he told stories about his home across the sea. "In my country," he said one warm afternoon, "women run shops, paint pictures, and share ideas. They don't just look pretty and stay quiet." Eleanor felt something new growing in her heart. Not the fast, scary feeling she had with Lord Harper, but something warm and strong like a tree putting down roots. "Tell me more about these women," she said. Mr. Alessandro took her hand. His touch was gentle, not grabbing like Lord Harper's had been. "I will tell you all their stories," he promised, "if you will share yours with me." For the first time since the ball, Eleanor felt truly seen. The summer days grew longer, and Eleanor's talks with Mr. Alessandro filled her hours with joy. One morning, Rose handed her a letter that made her hands shake. "Lord Harper is in town," Rose said. "He's taking water at the big bathhouse for his health." Eleanor's stomach felt tight. She had been happy in her small world with books and walks and Mr. Alessandro's stories. Now the old world was coming back like a storm cloud. 2 days later, while buying bread at the shop, Eleanor heard a voice that made her freeze. "Miss Eleanor? What a surprise." Lord Harper stood there with a pretty lady on his arm. Her dress was new and shiny, with lace that must have cost as much as Rose's whole cottage. "Lord Harper," Eleanor said with a small nod. Her voice was steady, even though her heart raced like a rabbit's. "This is Miss Bell, my new friend," he said. The lady smiled, but her eyes were cold like winter glass. "How nice," Eleanor said. "I hope you're well." Lord Harper looked her up and down. Her simple blue dress had no fancy beads or lace. "I see you still don't care about proper clothes," he said with a mean smile. "Now do you understand what you lost with your silly ideas?" Eleanor thought about the last 3 months. The books she'd read, the talks with Mr. Alessandro, the peace in Rose's garden. "I understand what I found," she said. Lord Harper's face turned red. "You talk big for someone who ran away in shame." "The lady seems quite content to me," said a deep voice. The Duke of Blackmore stood in the doorway of the shop. Next to him was Mr. Alessandro holding a bag of fresh fruit. "Your Grace," Lord Harper said, bowing low. "I didn't know you were in town." "I come for the history," said the Duke. "Mr. Alessandro here is teaching me about old Roman roads. Miss Eleanor has been most helpful in our studies." That night, Mr. Alessandro took Eleanor for a walk by the river. The setting sun turned the water to gold and made long shadows on the grass. "I must tell you something," he said. "In 2 weeks, I go back to Italy. My work at the big school there is waiting." Eleanor felt like the ground was falling away under her feet. "I see," was all she could say. Mr. Alessandro took her hands in his. "I have a question for you, but it's a big one. In Italy. You could study old books. You could help me teach others. You could write about the smart women we find in history." "You want me to come with you?" Eleanor's voice was just a whisper. "As my wife," he said, "if you would have me." Eleanor thought about the life waiting for her here. Maybe another man like Lord Harper, more balls where people judged her clothes, more rules about how to be a proper lady. Then she thought about Italy, old books to read, new places to see, work that mattered, and Mr. Alessandro's kind eyes each morning. "People will talk," she said. "They'll say I left because no one here would have me." "Let them talk," he said. "We'll be too busy living to listen." Eleanor stood on her toes and kissed his cheek. "Yes," she said. "I choose you and the life we'll make together." Rose's garden glowed in the morning sun as Eleanor and Mr. Alessandro stood under the big willow tree. Only 10 people watched them, not the 200 that would have been at her wedding to Lord Harper. There were no fancy carriages lined up on the road, no band playing loud music, no mountains of food on silver trays. Eleanor wore her mother's green dress again, now fixed with fresh lace and tiny white flowers from the garden. Mr. Alessandro looked at her like she was the sun and moon together. "I promise to listen to your thoughts, share in your dreams and walk beside you, not in front or behind," he said, as he put a simple gold ring on her finger. When Eleanor said her promise back to him, her voice was clear and strong. Their kiss was sweet and short, but filled with hope like a bird about to fly. After the small party, the Duke of Blackmore came to speak with them. His face, usually so stern, looked almost kind. "Miss Eleanor, or Mrs. Alessandro now, I must tell you something," he said. "That green dress you wear, my mother had one just like it. She wore it the night she told her family she would marry my father, even though they didn't approve. When I saw you at the ball, I was too surprised to speak," Eleanor smiled. "Then it is a lucky dress after all." The next week, Eleanor and Mr. Alessandro, now her husband, took a ship across the wide blue sea to Italy. The trip took 10 days. Eleanor was sick at first from the moving boat, but soon found her sea legs. She spent hours on the deck watching the water change colours from green to deep blue and back again. When they reached Italy, the air smelled of lemons and salt. The buildings were old but proud, painted in warm yellows and soft pinks. Their new home sat on a hill with 23 steps leading to the front door. It had big windows that let in streams of golden light and showed off the distant mountains. 6 months passed like a happy dream. Eleanor learned to speak Italian, first in shy whispers, then in full laughing sentences. She helped Mr. Alessandro teach young women to read old books. She wrote down stories of women from long ago who made art, ran shops, and wrote poems. One warm evening, Eleanor sat on their stone balcony looking out at the town below. Lights twinkled like fallen stars. The air smelled of jasmine and dinner cooking. Mr. Alessandro brought her a cup of sweet wine and sat beside her. "Any sad thoughts about home?" he asked. Eleanor thought about the ball, Lord Harper's mean words, the shame she had felt in her mother's dress. Then she looked at her desk inside where her own book sat half-written. She thought of her students who hung on her every word. She felt the warm weight of her husband's hand on hers. "That night at the ball felt like the end of my world," she said, "but it was really the first step on the path to finding my true home." She squeezed his hand. "Not just this place, but this life we've made. This is where I was meant to be all along."